Hey, welcome to rebelastrology.blogspot.com, and this is Age Robbie, your Rebel Astrologer. This time we're looking at a lot of stuff going on, and I think what I want to focus in on is just our sensitivities, what is represented in astrology by the moon. And the moon is all about that soft side of ourselves, that kind of like the sun represents kind of our identity. The moon is our emotional presence, our sensitivities. Right now, it is easy for our moon to feel kind of overwhelmed. And I don't want to harp on that too much, but what I do want to do is kind of examine that and talk about what it means when our moon feels that way, when our sensitivities feel kind of overwhelmed, and maybe talk about a good way of handling that. And a lot of what's going on is what you have to understand is when we feel that way, it means something isn't right, because in so many ways the moon, that emotional nature of ours, is really the guidance. Does that our guidance system? Does that mean that if we feel flipped out, we should continue to feel flipped out and go nuts and follow that? No, that's kind of a misinterpretation of the subject. It kind of comes down to the idea that if you put your hand on the burner and it hurts, it doesn't mean that the burner is punishing you. It doesn't mean that something you did in a past life is causing your hand to hurt when you put it on a burner. No, it simply means that you're putting your hand somewhere where your body's telling you to move. Well, your emotions are like that. It means that something needs some adjustment. And the good news is right now we have a very interesting interaction between Venus and the moon, as well as Mercury. Mercury is conjunct to Venus. That means the two of them are together like that. It means our sense of beauty and the way we think have a tendency to kind of align. It makes things easier in certain respects. And so, but what that means is if we put our minds at all times, but at this time in particular, if we put our minds on pleasant thoughts, on things that make us feel good, we can focus in on our Venus. And our Venus is quintiling. Quintile is a very strange thing to be. Venus and Mercury both are quintile to the moon. Now, quintile means that there is something, there's kind of a kismet between the two things. A creative, almost magical interaction that it's hard to put your finger on why it works, but it does. And don't try to put your finger on why it works. Here's the deal, is think about beauty. Find beautiful thoughts. Think those. Then we can reach out to Mars, which is in a sextile position to the moon, which means that there's a benefit that can be gained that isn't necessarily automatic. They can learn from each other. The Mars, which represents how we go after things, Venus, which represents that beauty, what we love, how we want, Mercury, how we think, are primed in such a position that if we let ourselves focus in on that beauty, on those thoughts, the things that give us pleasure, the things that really are beautiful to us, from that we can make serious strides to goals in unexpected ways. Because this is all coming up in Cancer, as far as the moon goes, and at that on the cusp of Gemini, we're talking about maybe some human interactions. We're talking about surprise benefits. And maybe it's a good time to think about what feels really good, looks really good, sounds really good. Maybe it's a time to lay in the sunshine. take some stress off of us. Because if we keep attacking it from that point of view of all the squares going on, and I don't want to go into it, where everything's banging and banging and banging up against each other, it's just going to get worse. So the most beautiful thing we can do right now is pull back. If we can't take the time off work, we can take the time off in here. We can buy ourselves some flowers. We can walk in the park. Whatever really feels beautiful to you. And that's the way it is. And you can follow us on Twitter at Rebel Astrologer. You can email us at rebelastrology.blogspot.com and get one of those very exciting appointments, or just ask a question you want addressed in the blog. And you can check us out. We're Rebel Astrology. It's under a local business in Portland, Oregon on the web, but we're available everywhere. And again, we're http://rebelastrology.blogspot.com. And I think the Gmail was rebelastrologer@gmail.com, just in case I got it wrong. And until next week, I'm no smarter than anyone else. We're just all riding the wave together. And hey, man, for this week, and whenever you can, bask in the frickin' sunshine. And if it's raining, bask in the rain.